Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today for the Rockwell Automation Annual HR Forum. Today the Talent Acquisition team wants to share with you some global process recommendations. We did a review and analysis of an open position in both the U.S. and China, and we'd like to share those results with you. I'm Amber Dalton.
My name is Leah Knezic.
Andrea Berg.
I'm Xiangyi. I'm Celigeer.
So today, just going over the agenda, we're going to do a Rockwell automation overview. I know we have a very diverse crowd. Some people have been here a long time and some people are newer, so we just want to make sure everybody's familiar with the company. We're going to talk about the open U.S. HR generalist role, and we're going to compare that. In China, the similar role is the HR specialist, so we're going to compare those two roles. We're going to do specifically a comparative analysis on their interview, recruiting, and selection process. We're going to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of both of these countries' processes. And then we're going to have a recommendation for the U.S. specific, a China specific, and then a global recommendation. And then we'll follow up with just a quick summary and conclusion. Why Rockwell Automation? One of the team members, Amber, works in the North America Talent Acquisition Department as a recruiter. Leah, another team member, studied abroad with Marquette and visited the Rockwell Automation Shanghai location in China. And Rockwell Automation is headquartered in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it employs a large number of Marquette alumni. So a quick overview of Rockwell Automation. The global world headquarters is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They currently employ just over 22,000 employees worldwide. They serve customers in over 80 countries, and over 50% of the business for Rockwell is done outside of North America. Just to kind of take a look at the global footprint to see how Rockwell Automation, where all of their employees sit at and work. So the first position that we're going to look at is the HR generalist role that's currently open in the United States. High-level position summary. The position supports all HR functions at a local manufacturing plant. Looking at the essential functions of the job, they're specifically spelled out. Each requirement is spelled out for this position. The minimum qualifications is a bachelor's degree. And they also highlight the desired qualifications, which is that they have previous experience in HR, applicant tracking software, SAP, which is a IT system that's used within HR or within Rockwell globally, and an HRIS, an HR information system program. And then specifically looking at the China human resource specialist position that's currently open. The position summary is that this position will focus on compensation and benefits and work closely with global and regional teams. The minimum qualifications is that they must have a degree with 5 years of experience in compensation, payroll, benefits, and knowledge on local laws. There are no essential functions or desired qualifications that were listed for this position. So the U.S. recruiting process, in order to determine this, we interviewed Carrie Snelson, the talent acquisition team leader for the Rockwell Automation North America process, which is centralized in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that supports all the current U.S.-based hiring needs. And the process basically starts that you identify that your company has a vacancy, that you have the headcounts approved. And then from there, you create a requisition in the applicant tracking system. And in Rockwell's case, they use Brass Ring. And then from there, they see who applies to that position, and they identify the talent pipeline that they're going to bring in. Some of the issues that they currently face with their recruitment process is finding the right skill level at the time that the need is realized, compliance issues associated with being a government contractor by the OFCCP, EEO, those type of things. Affirmative action planning can be a challenge. Actually tracking the candidates and determining when somebody becomes a candidate across the company. And Rockwell's not always an employer of choice outside of the Wisconsin area. A lot of people haven't heard of Rockwell. So to get people to apply, and once they do apply, to really get them interested in relocating to a colder part of the country can sometimes be a challenge. So looking at the selection process, the applicant applies online. The next step is that they're phone screened. The applicant is then interviewed, and from those that were interviewed, the most qualified individual is selected. There are no formal written selection tests that are currently used in the North America or in the U.S. For their selection process. However, some roles do have specific requirements, such as they have to prove that they have a diploma or they have to prove that they have a forklift license. Looking at the interviews specifically, they use structured interviews, are used as often as possible to ensure consistency. Stress and behavior-based interviews are typically not used. Some of the issues with regards to the interviewing and selection process is getting the evaluations from the interviews once it's complete can be a challenge. Always making sure that the staff is trained to not ask illegal questions. Making sure that they stick to predetermined questions and having a consensus on who is the best applicant. And now we just wanted to show you an example of some bad interviewing techniques that were done when I interviewed as a pregnant woman for an HR generalist role.
Hey, Leah, your appointment is here.
Oh, hi.
Hi, I'm
Amber.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, I see you're pregnant. Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Leah, and I'm an HR manager here. And so you're here, and you're interested in the HR generalist position that we have here.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, let me just start. What I really want to do is start and get to know you and your experience, and just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, perfect. So I got my undergrad at Michigan State in Human Resources. Since then, I worked for a small company, done a few different roles. I worked in their talent acquisition department. I worked in their payroll, and I worked...
Oh, wait, before we go on, if you just want to let me know, if you need to use the bathroom...
Oh, I'm good.
It's right, okay.
I'm good, thank you. I worked in their payroll department, and for the last 2 years, I've actually been an HR generalist for them.
Okay, all right. So this position... I just want to start off by saying that it can be very demanding at times, and so I'm not sure if you're married or if you're not. Okay, so I just want to let you know that sometimes we ask that you would stay after 5, and we have a child care center here, which is one of our best benefits. We have a lot of people using that, but they do close at 5, so I'm not sure if they close.
It won't be a
problem.
The
child care. Okay. Let's see here. So, about what else do I need to know? Let's see. Looks like you have a lot of experience with onboarding and working with new employees. And let's see. Okay. What else? And what are some of your other interests outside of work?
I'm outside of work. I guess I like to eat out. Okay. I like to exercise.
And I assume you're planning to have more kids and a family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely. Right. And I'm very involved in my church too.
Okay. So. Okay, great. And what church do you go to?
It's a River Glen. It's a Christian church in Waukesha.
Okay. Yeah, we've got a lot of people who go to church in our organization. So, but you're Christian. That's good. Let's see. Anything else that you want to fill me in on here about your experience?
No, I think I'm currently working on my master's.
Okay, so that's time-consuming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's
good for development.
Yeah, I like to be busy. The busier I am, the happier I am.
Okay, great.
So.
All right. Well, great. I think that's about all. We've got a few other candidates in the process, so it might take a little bit of time, but I really appreciate you coming in today. Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I guess just, so what are the next steps that, you said you have a few candidates a few more that you're going to be interviewing?
Yeah, we'll be interviewing some more candidates, and then we'll get back to you with more details, and probably, in the next week or two, maybe shoot you an email or something.
Okay.
But why didn't I see you out? It was really nice to meet you.
Thank you so much, Leah.
A new one.
Thank you.
Good luck.
In order to get a good idea about the recruiting, selection, and interview process in Rockwell Global, we wanted to take a look at some of the processes in the Shanghai, China location. I actually had the opportunity to travel to China with the Marquette study tour last spring, and while there we visited the location that we'll be looking at today right outside of Shanghai.
In order to compare the activities of both the U.S. and China recruitment, selection, and interview process, we decided to reach out to a connection I made while participating in a study tour in China last year in May. During the trip, we visited one of Rockwell's manufacturing locations outside of Shanghai. I was connected with the human resources manager who is responsible for supporting the hiring needs at this location. I provided Ms. Leah Zhang with a questionnaire and will now explain what we learned from her about their selection and hiring process. When a hiring manager needs to fill a position in Shanghai, the first step is to submit a requisition or request to fill the role to HR. This requisition will include information such as job title, department, date of hire, and reason for the vacancy. Upon receiving the requisition, an HR representative will look into the vacancy, inquire about any specific needs of the position, and update the position description. After the position has been updated, the vacancy will be advertised. For hourly positions, jobs are posted on the internal job board as well as various websites. A labor agency is also contacted and used to fill a position temporarily or for positions that might be difficult to fill. For salaried positions, jobs are posted internally as well as on various websites. Depending on the level of position, a search firm may be called upon to help locate qualified candidates. Some of the issues that Ms. Zhang mentioned with regard to recruiting are listed here and include finding qualified candidates, finding candidates on very short notice or when the hiring cycle time is limited, and attracting the right candidates. Anna, Shirley, and Andrea will go into more detail about these issues later in the presentation. The next step in the process is selection. Once a candidate has applied for the position, which they can do either online or by paper application for some of the production jobs, the hiring manager selects candidates who are most qualified. Someone from the HR team will then call the candidate and conduct a phone screening to verify basic qualifications and to possibly eliminate some candidates in this first round. The remaining candidates will be scheduled to come to the office for an interview. Currently, selection tests are not used at the Shanghai location. However, the HR team is considering using a caliper test to improve their selection process. This is one of many types of personality tests. As mentioned in Staffing the Contemporary Organization, personality tests are becoming increasingly more popular as a way to predict performance. Once candidates have been identified and selected, the interview process begins. The first point of contact with the candidate is a phone screen, which is typically conducted by someone from the HR hiring team. The next step is to invite the candidate to interview at the job location. The interview styles used most at Shanghai location are behavioral, panel, and one-on-one interviews. During the interview, the hiring team takes notes and evaluates the candidate's responses using a point system. After all the interviews have been conducted, the interview evaluations are compiled and reviewed, and the decision process begins. Some of the issues that are seen with regard to the interview process include hiring team not being able to reach candidates to schedule interviews, candidates exaggerating experience and qualifications, leading to difficulty measuring the skills and abilities of employees. One more issue brought up by Ms. Xiang was that they also have a difficult time coming to a consensus on who the best candidate is.
Based on the selection and recruitment information Leah and Amber just provided, we can easily figure out the similarities and difference between Rockwell's headquarters in Milwaukee in the U.S. and the branch in Shanghai in China. For the similarities, there are 3 points in general. Both HR departments provide job descriptions in detail, including position highlight, such as location and business group, and minimum qualification items, such as educational background requirement and related work experience. The requirement processes are the same. In the first stage, the HR specialists identify the job description and publish them online. In the second stage, the candidates interested in the job roles should submit their applications online. In the third stage, the managers would give the potential candidates interview opportunities, sometimes combining with background check. Finally, the company provides the qualified candidates offers. The second point is about the selection. Both the U.S. and Chinese companies have no sample selection tests. Last but not least, They share the same interview issues. They have background checking process in order to make sure that the information the candidates provide is accurate and uncover whether the candidates hide some experience. After the interview, both teams would have an interview evaluation section to choose the best candidates to employ. Through comparison, we find a difference from two perspectives. Regarding the recruitment method, the U.S. headquarters clarified the essential functions and desired qualifications much more detailed. You can refer to the HR documents attached to this video. In China, the company treats the hourly employee recruitment and salary employee recruitment in different ways. While in the selection process, especially during the interviews, the U.S. recruiter pay more attention on the legal issues, such as the attitude and question asked in the interview, because there are more employee protection methods in the U.S., such as the Civil Rights Act and labor unions. The structured interviews are more common in the U.S. headquarters. The structured interview is pre-planned. All the questions in the interview are related to the job role. In China, the Celigeer tests are taken into deliberation. And the Chinese interviewers have more methods to approach the candidates, such as phone interview. Behavior interviews are more valued in China. At last, to learn the interviews better, the on-site tests might be set in China.
I will introduce the strengths and the weaknesses in the selection and the recruiting and the interview process. In the selection process, Rockwell did a good job at the stage 1, which is the initial screening. This helps the organization to determine if there appears to be a possible match between the applicant and the open position. Reviewing the application and resumes is to eliminate those applicants who do not possess the minimum qualifications. However, Rockwell doesn't conduct any formal written tests. It's a disadvantage during the selecting process. The selection test can objectively evaluate the candidates, and tests can be an inexpensive way to choose workers and improve the productivity. Rockwell utilized the human resource planning to identify the number and kinds of employees the company will need in the future. In addition, the online recruitment of Rockwell could attract more talented candidates to apply for jobs and also provide more options for both the company and job seekers. However, the company must look to outside sources for additional employees. Therefore, it's critically important for Rockwell to identify the recruitment sources. If the company needs the candidates from the colleges and universities or competitors and other organizations. In the interview process, the company conducts various interview methods in China. For instance, the behavioral, the panel, and the one-to-one interview. These interview methods are effective, easy to use, and consistent. To express the respect to candidates, the interviewer in the company deals only with the information that is job-related and legal. The only weakness of the company in U.S. is the solely interview method. The company could try to conduct different kinds of interview methods to recruit candidates in various positions or purposes.
Now let's go over our recommendations for Rockwell. We'll start with the global recommendations, and we'll move on to U.S. and China-specific recommendations. Since there are no formal written selection tests administered company-wide, Rockwell may want to take the time to determine what competencies they would like to look for globally, such as teamwork, but then allow each location latitude on how to measure those competencies. They can then work around their own laws and cultural differences. We've learned in our research that trying to apply just one out-of-the-box selection tool or test is not usually successful within global companies. But that doesn't mean that Rockwell can't base decisions from a set of global values. This means the Shanghai location can continue to use the caliper test if they wish, especially if it gives indication of global competencies Rockwell is looking for. We had noted that there is a specific issue in Shanghai of not being able to appropriately test for soft skills such as communication and the ability to influence others. We'd recommend that before implementing caliper, Rockwell determine if that solution will help to resolve that gap. Next, we'd recommend that Rockwell work to ensure that only legal questions are being asked during the interview process, since this was noted as an issue earlier. One way Rockwell would do that is by requiring that interviews be structured, meaning the same questions are asked of every candidate for a position. Training of all hiring managers and the selection team will be key as well. Since legal questions will vary by location, each location will need to design their own questions. There could certainly be a template that is used globally, but each location would have the freedom to revise the questions based on local law. There will be other benefits of structured interviews as well, such as ensuring that all interview candidates are judged using the same criteria. Since it was determined that affirmative action planning can be an issue at Rockwell's U.S. location, we recommend that care is taken to ensure a diverse group of applicants is recruited for. Rockwell can take steps to diversify their recruiting methods by diligently tracking employment activities during every step in the process. Once the data is appropriately tracked and analyzed, Rockwell can put extra effort into recruiting for specific minority groups that they may be lacking. For example, if they are lacking female representation in their engineering department, they could contact local women in engineering organizations to create relationships in that area. It was noted earlier that Rockwell's China location could benefit from a shorter hiring cycle time. We'd recommend that Rockwell start to develop a pipeline of potential candidates, even if positions aren't currently open, especially for their critical and tough-to-fill positions. They can use websites such as LinkedIn to build these pipelines. Then once a position opens, they've got a group of pre-screened candidates to contact immediately. It was also noted that in China, there is a lot of competition for talent. It would be a good idea for Rockwell to analyze their pay and benefits, and even their recruiting brand to make sure they're both attracting quality candidates, but also able to close effectively on offers. As far as Rockwell's interview process in China, it was discovered that falsifying of information is common during the interview process. In order to prevent this as much as possible, we recommend that Rockwell require proof up front for at least the minimum qualifiers, such as education. We'd also recommend that background checks and reference checking be done for all who are offered a position. Since it would be too costly to conduct background checks and reference checks for all applicants, we'd recommend this process be done post-offer and have the offer be contingent upon successful checks. We'd recommend that communication be given up front about these checks to all candidates. This may help to prevent some of the issues as well. In summary, we've reviewed the recruiting and selection processes for an HR role for both Rockwell's U.S. and China locations. Using a comparative analysis, we've discovered that although there are many similarities between the two, especially around the process, there are many differences as well. The differences tend to arise in the diversity of the issues that come up during the process. After reviewing strengths and weaknesses of Rockwell's process in both locations, we've recommended several key items, including beginning to measure Rockwell's key competencies globally, while allowing freedom to each location to determine how to make those measures, globally requiring the use of structured interviews to help ensure legal questions are being asked and that candidates are being judged by equal measures, working to improve the U.S. affirmative action plans, shortening China's time to fill by proactively building talent pipelines, analyzing the pay, benefits, and employer brand, especially in China, in order to ensure attraction of top talent, and requiring proof upfront for things like transcripts. With a few improvements in some key areas, Rockwell's staffing processes will be well on their way to being top-notch.
Thank you for taking the time today to hear our analysis and recommendations for Rockwell in Milwaukee and Shanghai. We appreciate your time and hope that you learned something.